Hello. Today's video is about a true and impactful story that took place in our society. Before the story begins, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to Anime Affair and turn on the bell notification so you receive all updates. If you like the story, don't forget to like and share the video. In those days, I used to feel as if I were floating in the air. I would step in one place, but feel like I was walking somewhere else. Everywhere I went, I felt as if I was surrounded by flowers and their fragrance. I would think of only one person, my soon-to-be fiancé. Every thought had disappeared from my heart except for thoughts of him. Every desire had faded away except for the longing to be his. It was a memorable day when my mother handed me an envelope and said, "Mona, this is the picture of your father's friend's son. Look at it and let me know." Upon hearing this, my eyes sparkled with excitement, yet like a stubborn child, I said, "Mother, how is this possible? My future has already been decided." I started crying. "Mother, look at my friends. Some are getting into university, some are planning for their BSc, and some are even going abroad to study in America and Oxford. I am smarter and more passionate about studying than all of them. So is this how my future is going to be?" My mother hugged me and reassured me. "Dear, we are not forcing you into anything. I have already told Mrs. Iqbal that we will wait until you complete your graduation before finalizing anything. For now, it's just an engagement, and even after that, if you don't want to marry, no one will force you. Your father has made it clear that we will not take any step without your consent." That day, when I opened the envelope in my room, I felt shy. His deep, dreamy eyes looked perfect on his graceful face. And then, when I saw him in his captain's uniform, my heart melted. I regretted showing so much attitude in front of my mother. Such a life partner is only given to the lucky ones. So when my mother asked, I agreed. In just a few days, his family was coming to make me wear his engagement ring. I was eagerly counting the days, feeling like I was walking on a rainbow. During this time, I started receiving calls from an unknown person whose voice seemed more poisonous than venom itself. Every time I picked up, I heard a deep, broken voice saying, "Please talk to me. Just for a minute. Please don't hang up." I would always angrily slam the phone down, thinking, what a nuisance these boys are. Some chase girls like Majnun, others stand outside windows like Farhad, and some call strangers like Romeo. Sometimes, I thought about telling my parents about this strange caller, but then I would decide against it, not wanting to worry them unnecessarily. After all, I wasn't the type of girl to be swayed by a simple phone call. My mother had a PhD in psychology, and she had raised me to be far more mature than my age. So I never took those calls seriously and continued ignoring them. Meanwhile, college admissions began, and I enrolled in a BSc program. On my first day, I met many of my former classmates. Some had gone on to university, some had entered medical college, and some had gotten engaged. Among the many new faces, I was suddenly startled to see a very old friend, Iram, my childhood best friend. We had spent our early years together in Peshawar, from nursery to 4th grade, until my father was transferred to Karachi. Initially, we wrote letters, then switched to sending Eid and birthday cards, but eventually we lost touch. Now, after so many years, here she was again. Iram told me that her father had passed away a year ago, and her family had moved to Karachi, where their relatives lived. They had sold their property in Peshawar and invested in a business, so they were financially stable. I was thrilled to have my childhood friend back. When my engagement was planned, I invited Iram along with my other friends. On that day, everyone envied my luck. Tariq, my fiancé, was there too. After the engagement, my friends sang songs and played the dholak. At the end of the ceremony, I told Iram, "I need to catch up on years of missed conversations. You must come over tomorrow." She promised she would. The next day, I skipped college and waited for Iram. At home, only our old servant Parveen Appa was there, as my mother was a college lecturer, my younger brother Amir was at college, and my sister Sonia was at school. As I waited, that annoying stranger kept calling again and again. Furious, I finally picked up and scolded him. "Why do you keep calling me?" He replied, "Just talk to me once. I am a decent person and want a respectful friendship with you." I laughed sarcastically and said, "I don't need your friendship, understand?" Then I hung up. His voice was deep, drowsy, and slurred, as if he were always half asleep or intoxicated. A little later, Iram arrived. We spent the afternoon catching up. At one point, I went to make tea, and while I was gone, the phone rang again. I called out for Iram to answer it. When I returned, Iram was smiling while talking on the phone. After hanging up, she teased me, "Mona, what kind of people have you attracted?" I was shocked. "What do you mean?" She giggled and changed the subject, and we continued chatting. After that day, the strange calls stopped. I was relieved, thinking I was finally free of that nuisance. My studies continued, and I devoted myself entirely to preparing for exams. A year passed. One day, Iram came over, beaming with happiness. She hugged me and said, "Mona, I just came to thank you. You should treat me now." I was confused. "For what?" She laughed. "Rizwan proposed to me." I froze. "Who is Rizwan?" She grinned. "That mysterious caller who used to pester you. The day I answered his call at your house, I gave him my number, and we've been talking ever since. Now we're in love, and we're getting married in America." I was stunned. Iram's mother and uncle were against the marriage, and even Rizwan's family didn't accept it. I tried to convince her to talk to her mother, but she refused. Then she asked me to keep her secret until she left for America. Reluctantly, I promised, but I was deeply worried. A few days later, I went to the cinema with my father. There, I heard a familiar, deep, slurred voice. When the lights turned on during the interval, I was shocked. In front of me sat a man with his wife and child. His wife said, "Rizwan, get something to eat, please." I gasped. "Rizwan?" My heart pounded. I realized Iram was about to destroy her life for a man who was already married with a child. This was just the beginning of a shocking revelation. Would I be able to save Iram before it was too late? I couldn't believe my eyes. My heart started pounding as I realized the terrible truth. Iram was about to destroy her life for a man who was already married and had a child. Without wasting a moment, I decided to tell her everything. The very next day, I went to her house and revealed what I had seen with my own eyes. At first, she refused to believe me, calling me jealous and accusing me of trying to ruin her happiness. But when I showed her the proof, a photo I had secretly taken at the cinema, her face turned pale. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized she had been deceived. That day, she broke all ties with Rizwan, and after much regret, apologized to her mother for her mistakes. This incident taught us both a valuable lesson: never trust a stranger blindly, and always listen to the advice of those who truly care about us.